Hello and welcome to this Q&A video here in my bedroom. It's not much to look at, but it is what it is. At least I have a camera now. So, as you know, for my 1,000 subscriber celebration video, I asked you to put questions in the comments, and I'm here to answer them, at least as best as I can. I put little notes under every question, just so I don't go too far afield when I try and answer them. Let's do this. Hopefully this will be at least mildly entertaining, if not informative. And right off the bat, Scott asks, what's up? This is actually a fairly complicated question, but it turns out if you take the Earth and you plug it into the stress-energy tensor in the Einstein field equations, you can then use that to solve for the Ricci tensor and scalar via the Christoffel symbols, of course. And if you simplify everything and solve it all, you find that actually up is in fact the opposite of down. Niklas211, do you fix your broken cable/tip, etc. foils yourself? Mostly. I don't have equipment to solder or rewire blades, but pretty much everything other than that I try to do myself. I mess up a lot, but sometimes I don't, so I can save some money that way. Derek Hoy asks, how can I improve my accuracy when fencing at high speed? Okay, so there's basically two schools of thought here. You could either practice accuracy while fencing slowly, and then naturally increase your speed as you get more comfortable being accurate at faster and faster speeds. Or you can force yourself to go fast and basically let your accuracy naturally build up as you get more comfortable fencing fast, if that makes sense. I personally, and I think most fencers would agree with me, that it's probably better to do the first option. The reason being that you're not going to fence fast all the time, but you should probably try to be accurate all the time. So even if you need to fence fast or slow, if you have that foundation of accuracy, it'll help out a lot. I know there are situations, of course, where being fast is more important than being accurate, but if you only practice fencing super fast and let your accuracy build up there, if you suddenly have to slow down, you might suddenly lose a bit of accuracy. So yeah, in my opinion, it's better to have that foundation at all speeds of accuracy rather than just focusing on like one speed. So that's what I would go with. Practice being accurate while slow, and your speed will just naturally build up as you get comfortable. Hope that helps. Pedro Oliveira asks, what do you think about the proposed rule change to have no off-target in foil? And I think that was one of Daz Painter's questions as well. So I'll answer them both here. In short, I don't think it's going to happen. This is a proposal that's still very in the super early stages. It has not been tested yet. Even if it is tested, it still has to get through pretty much every other committee in the FIE. Most of whom I believe are against it on the grounds that it would change way too much about foil. And with that said, I get the hubbub and the hype of like, oh my god, this could change everything. But between you and me, I don't see it happening. Alright, Daz Painter had two other questions. One of them, what's the best/worst argument you've seen between a fencer and a ref? I've been part of an argument, or maybe not an argument, but a kind of weird exchange with the ref. It was at some local tournament about a year ago, I think. Basically, it was mostly self-refed, so the ref was someone from my pool. And there was a weird thing that happened where it may have been like my parry or my opponent's beat. I don't really remember the details that much. But the referee just said, halt, you disengage right on through, and gave me a point and then put us back on guard. And my opponent asked for clarification, and the referee once again said, you disengage right on through, and then just put us back on guard again, or tried to. So then I asked the referee, yeah, but what was the call there? Like what actions happened? And the referee just stared at me and went, you disengage right on through, and then motioned me back to the strip. But I said, wait, but then what were the actions that took place in the phrase? Like what? And he again responded, you disengage right on through. And we went back and forth basically like that for about 3 to 4 minutes, where I got more and more exasperated, like, yes, but what was the call? That's not a call. Like, was it attack? Was it beat attack? Was it parry or post? What is it? Like, nothing in the phrase had even resembled a disengage, so I had no idea what he was talking about. But yeah, he just kept repeating over and over again, you disengage right on through. And in the end, I think we ended up throwing it out, but I can't really remember. Yeah, but that was just like a weird exchange that happened there. And also, why must us beekeepers fight? Because fighting is fun and the bees are dying. Shout out to Annie, a friend of a friend who does beekeeping. Annie, I don't think you're ever going to watch this, but if you do, you're awesome. Latvin2k asks, based off of your previous comments about being busy with school, I assume you're a university student. What school do you go to? Well, I actually graduated last spring from Dartmouth College, way up in Hanover, New Hampshire. Very cold, but I love the school to death. I was lucky enough to be a member of their club fencing team. They don't have an NCAA team, but I can at least say with some certainty that at least as of last year, we were the best club team anywhere in the country because we won club nationals. It was very exciting. Pedro Oliveira has another question. I'm at university now, and the fencing team doesn't have a coach. What's the best way to train so I can still improve without a coach? So this also kind of has to do with my time at Dartmouth, which is why I put these two questions next to each other. Never underestimate the value of your teammates in terms of learning and improving. You can coach each other. This requires you to have a lot of trust in your teammates. It is very easy when you're fencing to just focus on yourself and what you need to improve. And that's great. You can get better doing that, especially by doing things like imposing constraints on yourself if you find that your opponents aren't challenging enough for you. But there is definitely something to be said for your team as a coherent whole being able to bring each other up. And if you notice something about something that your teammates are doing, maybe you can bring it up to them, have people offer critiques and advice throughout the day. For a little bit of my time at Dartmouth, not the whole time, but for some of it, we didn't have a coach. And we basically had to succeed just on the backs of helping each other. And as shown hopefully by our results, the results can be pretty spectacular if that's done right. As I said, it does require quite a bit of faith in your team to focus on helping each other, not just themselves. But if you can manage that, yeah, you can make wonderful things happen. So maybe have people strip coach each other while you're fencing in practice. Definitely have people referee each other. That helps a lot too. Yeah, use your teammates. They're a great resource. Other than that, maybe see if there's room to hire a local coach. Maybe part-time or something, or just have them come in to offer what little advice they are willing to give. I know a lot of coaches who could definitely use the work and or would be excited to be part of a small fencing team like that. You might run into problems with your school about hiring a coach if it's you guys doing it as a fencing team, not something the management initiated, but that may also be an option for you. All right, here we go. Adair asks, which is the best Land Before Time direct-to-video sequel? Adair, okay. I'm going to have to go with the 9th one, the one where they were trying to bring that ichthyosaur guy named Mo to the ocean, or the big water as they called it. For context, everyone, we used to own that one on VHS, and my family saw it quite a lot as a result. I can probably still remember some of those song lyrics. Good times. Dare also asks, is Protoss Imba on Cloud Kingdom? Definitely 100%, absolutely. Scarlet should have gotten top 2 at that Red Bull Battlegrounds at least. She should not have lost to Parting in the semifinals, especially after such an epic game against Bomber. That was really great to watch. I also saw Idra, a video of Idra rage quitting against Minigun when Minigun cannoned his 3rd on that map. So yeah, I still have nightmares. Cloud Kingdom, not fun for Zerg. And finally, Adair asks, who is the best little sister in the world? That's a really tough one. I think I'm going to go with Arya Stark because she at least knew the first thing about sword fighting. Vlada Kursmanovic, I hope that's how your name is pronounced, writes, 1, what is your favorite experience with fencing? And 2, what do you think has to be done to popularize fencing with a wider audience? Okay. I'll get the first one out of the way because it's a much easier question. Definitely landing just a really solid flick right in the center of their back. Like, they attack you, they fall short, they're leaning over a little, so you just boom right there. And they don't even feel it. The light just goes off and they feel miserable about themselves, and you feel great. That's probably my favorite experience all told. Okay, so popularizing fencing with a wider audience. This is a very complicated question, and not in the what's up sense, in the actual sense. As a content creator based on fencing, it's one that I'm constantly thinking about and always really reassessing my idea of. So I think, at least right now, my opinion is this. A lot of it has to do with just putting the sport out there in front of people. Just increasing the visibility of the sport as a whole. Doesn't necessarily mean getting people into fencing or like getting people to fence, but just having a wider distribution of content, basically, of video, or just more people knowing about it. So that includes both YouTube, like what I'm doing, and showing it more in mainstream TV, that sort of thing. If there's one thing to be learned from more mainstream sports, like, for example, football, both the American and everyone else varieties, not everyone who watches a sport has to be particularly good at the sport or even do the sport. Take like any American household, there's almost certainly going to be someone who follows a sport and doesn't do that sport, right? Most people in America are not high-level football players, and yet they can watch and appreciate the sport for what it is. Fencing, in my opinion, that's not the case. Most of the people watching fencing right now are already fencers. My audience is pretty much 100% fencers. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't fence and you still find the videos enjoyable, that's great. But I think for the sport to really grow, it would definitely help, if not be the end-all be-all, to increase the audience to people who don't fence and let other people still appreciate watching the sport. Even if they maybe don't have the money to get into it and afford like lessons and all the equipment and stuff. Or maybe they just don't feel like fencing is for them, but they can still appreciate watching it. That's partly what I'm trying to do, and I know I've heard a lot about the FIE commentators over the years, but one thing that I do applaud them for is trying to make fencing that accessible to people who've never done it before. Even if their audience doesn't include people like that, I do appreciate their efforts to try and increase the size of the audience by doing so. Whether or not that's the best resources or the best way that FIE can spend its resources regarding commentary is another matter, but that's also a bit of a part. That's not to say that I don't think there should be fencing content out there for people who fence. That's pretty much all of what I'm doing right now. But yeah, I think to popularize fencing, people don't need to fence. People just need to watch it and appreciate it more. To be fair, I'm a member of the in-group here, so I can't really speak to that outside perspective. But in my opinion, if you just show people fencing and give them a chance to think, wow, this looks cool, or wow, this is really deeply strategic or something, things could go well for the sport. And I think it is on the upswing, all told, as well. It could be going faster, but I'm certainly not complaining. Okay, Ryan asks, opinions on different brands, specifically what are your favorite blades and why? Okay, so for competitions, I use stiff BF whites. Basically, those are just the most comfortable blades I found, especially for flicking with. I know a lot of people think that more flexible blades are great for flicking. You can make things happen with them and kind of cheat with your hand positioning, but I've practiced flicking enough that I can flick with pretty much anything. And in my opinion, being able to have a slightly closer hand position isn't really worth it compared to just the sheer stability and precision that having a really stiff blade affords. Especially if you want to try to make an action with multiple feints with a bendy weapon, it's just going to go like all over the place. With the BFs I use, it stays pretty consistently tight. So that's that. I've also picked up a Veneti recently, mostly for coaching and giving lessons, that sort of thing, because I've heard they basically never break, even if they're not quite as at the level of the BFs in terms of performance. I've yet to put that to the test because I've only had it for a couple months, but so far I've enjoyed it. For the rest of my stuff, let's see. I've got an exchange mask. I use Nike Air Zoom shoes. They're getting really old. I should get a new pair soon. And my whites are just the normal, like, stretchy Absolute brand, I think. To be honest, I don't actually know that much about brands. In my experience, personal preference matters quite a bit more than, like, the brands that you choose, up to a point. So, yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask. My experience with various equipment manufacturers is pretty limited, mostly geographically. Bill asks, what are some of your favorite film matches for individual and team? So for individual bouts, I'm going to go with two. First one is definitely Baldini versus Jopek from the 2006 World Championship in Turin, I think. That one has a special place in my heart because that's really the bout that got me into watching and analyzing fencing. That was really the first bout I ever watched with an eye of like what's actually going on here. And as you probably know, Baldini and Jopek have very, very different styles. And you could really see those stylistic differences playing out in the bout in really cool ways. And yeah, that was where my fascination with analysis like I'm doing now really started. Also going to go with Ota versus Kleibrink in the 2008 Olympics because, like, duh, that was just a really good bout. For team matches, I don't really know. So the way I watch team matches is kind of weird. What I usually do is, like, I'll have one fencer that I'm watching a lot of just because I want to learn more about what they do. And I'll just watch as many bouts as I can of them, and that includes team matches. But if there's a match that includes them, I'll just skip through to the parts where that one fencer is fencing. and I end up watching them all piecemeal, and I don't really follow the whole score overall. So the result is I basically end up watching every team match like twice total, because I end up watching like every fencer eventually, but they all kind of jumbled together in my mind and I can't really remember which is which. So I don't really know any good team matches in particular. I do remember watching a lot of team matches by Vetsali back in the day and seeing her just work miracle after miracle on the strip. Although I guess they became less miraculous when she was like cemented as by far the best. It just became par for the course. But anyway, yeah, team matches I don't really have a favorite because I don't watch them that way. Okay, so here's two that are kind of similar, so I'll just put them together. Luke Mitchell asks, how long have you been a fencer for? And Ascalis asks, when/where did you first start fencing? And as a follow-up, how long did it take you to become competent, as in confident in your ability to fence at a level appropriate for your chosen tournaments? So, to answer both of those, I started at a summer camp hosted by the Fencing Academy of Philadelphia in, I want to say 2007, I'm pretty sure. I started taking after-school lessons the fall after that, and I kind of like oozed really slowly into competitions. I think it was around 2010 that I decided like I want to do this seriously now, and yeah, the rest is pretty much history. And Ascalis, I'll let you know when I start to feel competent. To answer Ascalis' question more directly, I don't really like to relate my skill to my chosen tournaments. The reason for that is that it would be way too easy to flip the script and choose tournaments based on my perceived skill level. Across the board, I consider myself to be a pretty terrible fencer. Some of you may be surprised at that, but yeah, I don't think I'm particularly good. As a person, I don't think I'm the type to ever feel like I'm really comfortable with how good I am at really anything, fencing included, and making videos is no exception. In general, I tend to see my own flaws pretty strongly, so yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. I don't really feel competent, and at this rate, I probably never will, but I'm also totally okay with that fact, and it's just a question of trying to optimize myself as best I can, with the knowledge that pretty much there's always going to be someone better, and always better results to achieve down the line. Alright, another question from Pedro Oliveira. Best bout or bouts of all time? Definitely going to go with on this one Inigo Montoya versus the Dread Pirate Roberts at the 2018 Leon Paul Cliffs of Insanity Invitational. It was an epic display of both technique, technical skill, and one of the craziest strategies I've ever seen from both fencers, in fact. I'd highly recommend you go check that one out. I actually live commentated it back in, I think it was early April of this year. So yeah, definitely take a look if you haven't. And finally, this is going to be the last question. John Clayman asks, what's your best tournament result? And for this one, I have a story. So this is, first of all, what I consider to be my best tournament result. It happened when I was in South Africa 2 years ago now. You may remember I made a video detailing very briefly my time there and how much I enjoyed hanging out with those people. Fencing was absolutely great. I got to train at Blues Fencing Club, and at the end of it, I got to compete at this, I guess, kind of the equivalent of like a ROC or a NAC in South Africa. It was like a regional championship or something. And I suppose it's just a matter of cosmic irony of some sort that it was in épée. Okay, so let me explain. I was there with my friend Raphael, who was an épéist, and the way they structured the tournament, they had all the épée events one day and all the foil events another day. So we both did senior in both weapons, so we both got to try each other's weapon. And leading up to this, there were a couple days a week, usually at Blues, where just no other foilists would show up, so I just fenced épée to fill the time, because otherwise I'd be doing nothing. And I had a blast, but the only épée they had that I could really use was a right-handed French grip épée that I held in my left hand. So yeah, I was basically a Frankenfencer. It was fun, but like I had no idea what I was doing. So that went on for like 2 months, and eventually the tournament came around, and I finally got to borrow a lefty pistol grip épée from someone, and all of a sudden I was just like on. It just felt amazing. Like the ghosts of the Nadi brothers were like reaching up from the grave to guide my every blade movement, and my point control was just epic. I got wrist touches. I never go for wrist touches. I'm a foilist. But they happened anyway. And yeah, I ended up taking 5th place at this tournament. I lost in the quarterfinals 15-14 to a really experienced epéist named Mikesh, who I think I mentioned, I gave a shout out to in that video back right after South Africa as well. So that was pretty cool, going from basically no experience with epé at all to 5th at the like local equivalent of a rock or knack. That felt pretty darn good. Also, to date, that was like the fastest I've ever found the zone or the flow state or whatever you want to call it. Because the day kind of started out as like a joke of, oh, LOL, I'm doing epé. And then as I started to feel better and better, it turned into like, wait, I can actually do this. This is great. Yeah, as you might be able to tell, I have a lot of stories to tell about that term abroad. But I hope that at least answers your question. Yeah, so my best tournament results to date was in South Africa, and it was with the wrong weapon. Oh, for the record, my friend and I both medaled in our like actual weapons. Like, I'm not going to suddenly turn into the epéist, don't worry. But yeah, I think that's all the questions I have time for, and all the ones that are on the video right now. I can check through really fast. Yep, I don't see any new ones. So if you were a little bit late and you ended up asking a question after I recorded this, but before the answer video went up, I will do my best to answer in the comments themselves. Yeah, I think that's everything. Again, absolutely thrilled to have 1,000 subscribers. This was not really something I expected to happen anytime soon. But now that it has, I'm definitely not going to stop. Rio bouts are continuing to be worked on. I just need like another weekend to finish the next one. And hopefully over the winter break, I'll be able to bang the rest of them out. I only have 6 left, and most of them are about half done. Live commentary videos are, of course, going to keep coming out weekly, I hope, unless something terrible happens. But yeah, this has been fun. And until next time, stay sharp.